frequently get asked the question, how do I know if it's the right time to see a therapist? And on the flip side, I see a lot of patients who I recommend therapy to, and they tell me, oh no, I'm not that bad. I don't need therapy yet. So how do you know when's the right time to see a therapist? It's Ivory. Welcome back to my channel where I talk about all things from mental health and wellness to days in my life. If you're new here, then welcome. I'm so glad you're here and I hope you stay. I'm Ivory and I'm a licensed clinical psychologist who specializes in neuropsychology. My goal is always to make topics in mental health and psychology more accessible, understandable, and relatable to people. If you're not already subscribed, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you can make sure that you join the family and that you don't miss an upload. So the question at hand, how do you know when it's the right time to see a therapist? I would say that if you are already questioning it and if you're wondering, is now the right time? It's probably the right time. First, it's important to know that therapy can last anywhere from one session to something more long-term, like years. And whether you go to short-term therapy or long-term therapy is going to depend on your goals, where you are in life, and what you're hoping to get out of therapy. But the important thing to keep in mind is to consider what you really are hoping to gain out of therapy, what your goals are, and what you want to look like at the other side of therapy coming out of it. How would your life be better if therapy gave you the ideal, absolute best possible outcome? There is nothing wrong with going and trying it out and seeing if you could benefit at this time. Something that I also want to emphasize is that I do not want you to wait until something catastrophic happens for you to decide now is the right time for me to see a therapist. Do not wait until you can't get out of bed. Do not wait until you've lost your job. Do not wait until all of your relationships have been ruined. Please, if you start to notice, I'm not quite feeling right, things seem a little bit off, I don't seem like myself, it's time to see a therapist. Now, of course, if you're already at that point, something catastrophic has happened, you do feel suicidal, it is not too late to still get mental health treatment. But I definitely, if possible, want to avoid even getting to that point by seeking help earlier. I'm gonna give some general guidelines as to how you might know that it's time for therapy, but please keep in mind that not everybody is going to fit into these categories. You may fall somewhere in between or nowhere near anywhere of what I'm talking about at all. 1, you just don't feel right. You're in a funk, you're more worried than usual, you don't quite feel like yourself. 2, your school or your work is starting to be affected. You're missing assignments, you're showing up late, you're missing details, you're getting poor performance reviews. 3, you're just going through a hard time. Maybe you just lost someone, maybe you're struggling like the rest of us to deal with COVID. 4, you're sleeping more or sleeping less than usual. You're eating more or eating less than usual. You're more irritable. You're having trouble concentrating. Those are physical signs that your body is having a hard time coping with the stress that you're under. 5, you're a young adult or a middle-aged adult who feels like you all of a sudden developed ADHD or that you might have Alzheimer's disease. If you've seen my previous video where I talked about some strategies for attention, ADHD does not just develop in adulthood. And Alzheimer's disease, although not impossible to develop in middle adulthood, tends to develop in your 60s going into your 70s and more likely as we get older and older. So if you are in your 20s to 30s and you feel like you are having more memory problems, more attention problems, then that might be a sign that it's actually a lot of stress that you're going through that is interfering with your ability to recall information. 6, you have a habit of playing out the worst case scenario in your head and you're convinced that that is 100% what's going to happen. 7, you feel really down on yourself a lot. Maybe you have poor self-esteem, you're very critical of yourself, you feel like a failure. 8, you can't quite reach your goals no matter how hard you try, and you're really struggling to understand why things never seem to work out for you. You're preparing for a new transition and you would like to add another tool to your toolbox. My favorite way to talk about things that you get out of therapy and things that you use to cope with different situations is to talk about your toolbox. You have a hammer, you have a screwdriver, you have a wrench. You pull one out for a certain situation and pull another out for a different situation. Same thing with coping strategies and ways to get through various life struggles. Your go-to strategies like meditation or exercise may usually work for you, but maybe not for a particular situation, or maybe they're not quite working anymore, and you want to learn a new skill or a new way of dealing with situations. This could be a new transition, like maybe you just lost your job, maybe you're starting a new job, maybe you're moving to a new place, maybe you're getting ready to go to college, maybe you're leaving college and starting your first job. Maybe you have a bad breakup. Maybe there's some family stress. It's someone who has a pattern of behavior that needs reworked. So let's say every relationship, every family relationship, every friendship that you have kind of just ends in turmoil and is violent and is aggressive, and you don't trust the other person and they don't trust you. If you find that you are having relationship after relationship after relationship where this is the case, that may be a sign that there is something that needs to be reworked. There's some kind of pattern of behavior or some kind of mindset that's negatively influencing those relationships, and that may take a little bit more time to uncover and to work out. If you just don't have any coping skills at all, if when situations hit you that are stressful, you really just break down, shut down, have no idea how to deal with them, or deal with them in ways that aren't beneficial for you, such as resorting to alcohol or drugs, or even other forms of self-harm. Again, I want to emphasize that this is not a full list. There are many other signs that it might be time for you to try therapy. And again, I want to emphasize that if you are thinking about it, if you are watching this video right now and you clicked on it because you're questioning, I do want to know when's the right time, it might be the right time. And the last thing that I want to talk about in this video is how to choose a therapist. So you've decided, yes, it's time for me to see a therapist. What do you do now? When you are choosing a therapist, when you are meeting a therapist, when you're looking at their profile and reading information about them, really consider if you feel like you will fit well and you will vibe with this person. I cannot emphasize this enough. I've talked about it in previous videos. One of the most important parts of therapy, and if therapy will be successful for you or not, is if you feel like you have a connection with your therapist. If you feel like you trust your therapist enough to talk to them and to be open with them. If you feel like they are not judging you for the things that you're saying to them. If you feel like they are open. If you feel like they are aware of cultural differences and are able to work with you successfully in that. That fit with that person is so important, because you have to be able to trust them and feel connected with them in order to really be able to put your all out there in therapy and to benefit from it. So you want to make sure that the person who you are seeing is competent enough and that you trust them, you vibe with them, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with saying, you know what, I felt really judged by that statement, or I'm unsure where we're going in therapy, or I'm just not comfortable. I don't think this is a good fit. I'm going to see someone else. So back to how do you find a therapist? One of the first things that I would do is to call your insurance company and ask them if you can get a list of mental health providers in your area who accept your insurance. After you've gotten that list, you can start contacting people. If they have websites, I encourage you to visit their website, read more about them, read about their philosophy, who they typically work with, and again, figure out if you think that this would be a good fit. Another option is to look on psychologytoday.com and you can filter by your insurance. And after you've filtered in your different preferences, which again could be insurance, it could be if you want male or female, it could be if you want someone who is LGBTQ friendly, it can be a lot of different filters. After you have gone ahead and filtered through and chosen and kind of put in your preferences, then different profiles will pop up with a little blurb about them, who they usually work with, their website if they have one, their location, and other types of information. A lot of them have their pictures on there too. Another way is to just Google therapists near me. And again, same thing of reading information about them, seeing what comes up, seeing if there are reviews about them. Another option, since we are in the age of technology and social media, is that you can actually search the hashtag your city therapist or your city psychologist. So you put in Philadelphia therapist, hashtag Charlotte therapist, hashtag Chicago psychologist. And you can find a lot of people that way who are offering therapy in your area. With all of these options, I would encourage you to see if that therapist can do a phone consultation first, or even an in-person consultation, a web consultation, some kind of initial meeting, so that way you can determine if you feel like that person will be a good fit for you before you even waste time of going to them and telling them all of your business and then you discover that you actually don't vibe well with this person. So if you have been on the fence about if it's the right time for you to see a therapist or not, I hope this video was helpful for you and at least encouraged you to think about your goals for therapy, where you are, and what you want out of therapy, and what kind of therapist you might want. Let me know if I missed anything, if there are other situations that would let you know that it is time for you to see a therapist. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.